When a mysterious Apache knocked at midnight, an incredible truth was revealed behind her. Amelia staggered through the rain-slicked streets of Marshall, Arizona, her scrubs clinging to her skin, soaked through from the relentless storm. The clinic had been a whirlwind of coughs and cries, a restless symphony of pain that she had bandaged with her unwavering compassion. Shaking off the fatigue, she braced herself for the whispers that would await her at home, the same ones that haunted her every step. "She'll never make it," they echoed in her mind as she pushed open the door to her small adobe house. As her son Casey was tucked in bed, she felt the walls closing in, a suffocating echo of judgment. The doubt they stirred threatened to drown her. As she closed the door behind her, a thunderclap roared, rattling the window panes. In that tumult, a knock sounded, sharp, insistent in the chaos. Instinctively, her heart raced. Who could it be? The townsfolk often avoided her, especially after exchanging promises of motherhood with sacrifice. With a hesitant breath, she opened the door. There stood Eleonora, a striking Apache woman whose presence shimmered like starlight in the storm. Amelia felt an ancient pull towards her, yet a twinge of fear held her back, drowning her in insecurities. "What do you want?" Amelia stammered, suddenly feeling small. "It's not what I want," Eleonora replied, her voice smooth like the river. "But what's waiting to be uncovered within you?" As the women spoke, Eleonora began weaving tales of Amelia's heritage, tales infused with ancestral wisdom that resonated in Amelia's very marrow. An awakening flickered within her heart, igniting a long-dormant desire for exploration. Yet the storm outside mirrored the tempest in her soul. But could she really embrace this? Could she be the one to bridge the divide that had existed for so long? The fear clawed at her. What would the clinic say? The town? Each heartbeat echoed reminders of her inadequacies, thickening the air in her lungs. A nurse, yes, but a healer? Those were different realms, worlds apart, and she could almost hear the laughter of neighbors echoing through the rain. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Amelia leaned into the wisdom being offered, shadows of doubt circled her relentless like wolves. What if the legacy felt generational to Eleonora was merely an illusion for her? What if she faltered under scrutiny? Guilt burned as she remembered Casey's innocent trust, his wide eyes always looking up to her, untainted by the world's harsh judgments. Would the whispers consume their fragile reality? Just as the air around them thickened with despair, the storm outside rose to a crescendo. Amelia braced herself, shaking, torn between the longing for acceptance and the gnawing fear of rejection. She had begun to uncover something profound, but was unprepared for the backlash this knowledge could bring. Vulnerable, teetering on the edge of revelation, she felt the power of her heritage thrumming just beneath her skin. But would it be worth the price she might have to pay? The community at her door lingered in the unknown, and with the weight of their biases, history fused with bold dreams, just beyond the divide that now defined her existence. Would she dare to step forward into the storm, or allow the whispers to wash her away? Amelia's heart pounded as her confrontation with doubt escalated, an internal battle raging as fiercely as the storm. Eleonora stood before her, an embodiment of strength and tradition. With every moment, Amelia felt the weight of generations pressing against her soul. Could she truly connect with this unseen lineage? Or was it destined to shatter like glass beneath the weight of critical gazes? Eleonora crossed her arms, her expression shifting from serene to penetrating. "You feel the echoes of your ancestors, Amelia. They are not to be feared but embraced. Healing is innate. It flows through your veins." "But I'm just a nurse," Amelia replied, her voice quaking with uncertainty. "What do I know about healing beyond medical text?" "Your heart knows more than any book," Eleonora replied, her voice lilting like the wind weaving through trees. "You hesitate in the shadows while the light beckons you forward." Amelia caught a glimpse of the truth, a flicker of confidence igniting deep within her. The tears she had fought against now brimmed her eyelids. She felt a pull toward reclaiming her identity. Yet the fear of the reaction from her colleagues loomed large. She lived in a world of sterile rooms and clinical judgment. Would she risk it all for a journey toward rediscovery? Taking a shaky breath, she ventured a question. "And what if I fail?" Eleanora's laughter, rich and warm, filled the threshold. "Failing is part of the journey. Real healing comes when you accept the scars of your experience." With those words echoing in her mind, Amelia began to see the shadows shifting around her. What if this was her opportunity to grow, to combine her medical knowledge with the wisdom of her heritage? She envisioned a place where diagnosis and spirit harmonized in a dance of healing. Could she be a catalyst for change in her community? Her hands trembled at the thought, but the idea of grasping her destiny drove the butterflies in her stomach into a purposeful dance. "Begin," Eleanora urged, a hand reaching out as if to guide Amelia's heart back home. "Start where you are. Listen to your intuition." The storm's fury outside shifted to a light drizzle, drawing Amelia's gaze through the window. Each droplet danced, as if celebrating the promise of this transformation. Suddenly, all her fears began to morph. This was not merely a risk, it was a chance to reclaim her narrative, to stitch together her fragmented self. "Will you stand with me?" she asked, surprising even herself with the tremor in her voice now imbued with purpose. "Help me navigate this path?" Eleanora nodded, a fierce gleam in her eye. "I will teach you the ancient ways, the rituals that connect generations. Together, we can cultivate a new understanding of healing." With newfound determination, Amelia felt the tension ease. The future no longer looked like an overwhelming tempest, but rather an exciting journey. As dawn approached, light broke through the clouds, scattering shadows and illuminating the path ahead. She realized she was ready to embrace her calling. Yet beneath the current of excitement, Amelia's mind flickered with concerns. The faces of colleagues and townsfolk danced in her thoughts, their prejudgments like specters haunting her resolve. Would this new journey be met with acceptance or scorn? The intimate air thickened, layering a tangible tension as their gazes locked. In this moment shared between the two women, Amelia recognized both a mentor and a kindred spirit. But as Eleanora took a step back into the enveloping rain, the door between worlds stood wide, waiting for her choice. "Will I take that step?" Amelia whispered, breath held tight, as the weight of the moment pressed down upon her. And in the distance, a lightning flash illuminated the expanding horizon. There lay her decision, a crossroad toward an unknown adventure, stirring within her a surge of defiance against the very whispers that sought to drown her aspirations. Would she dare negotiate the tightrope between acceptance and self-discovery, or hide within conventions, never grasping the full essence of her heritage? The echoes of her ancestry whispered softly, urging her onward, and the thunderous roar of her heart grew louder. The time had come to face the storm within. Amelia stood at the precipice of her decision, breathlessly aware of the electric pulse coursing through her. The clash of thunder outside now felt like a rhythm matching the beat of her heart, urging her to embrace the path laid before her. The storm had dwindled to a whisper, but within her tumult brewed. Eleanora's form was a beacon amid the ever-fading storm. "Amelia." Her voice resonated with an ancient wisdom. "Understand that each journey taken is a piecing together of your soul. Trust the call of your lineage, it will guide you." But uncertainty gnawed at the edges of Amelia's resolve. The sterile walls of the hospital, so familiar yet confining, beckoned her back, a world where she had wielded knowledge as a shield. What if being true to my identity costs me my job? My colleagues see me as a nurse, not a healer. "Do not confuse their perception with your capacity," Eleanora advised, her eyes glimmering with fierce conviction. "This journey is not merely about recognition, but about expression of who you are and who you wish to be." With every word, Amelia felt the weight of generations urging her to take that first step into the unknown. The thought of melding her medical expertise with the ancient rituals Eleanora spoke of opened possibilities she had never fathomed. Could she craft a new way of healing that nurtured not just the body but the spirit? As the rain eased outside, Amelia shoved her hands into her pockets, wrestling with what she needed to discard. She had been so focused on the fear of failure, the constraints of her current reality, that she hadn't allowed herself to envision success. "I want to learn," she finally said, her voice firm despite the quaking beneath. "I want to integrate this wisdom into my practice, but where do I begin?" Eleonora's radiant smile was a lighthouse cutting through the fog. "By accepting that your journey is already in motion, set aside your doubts. Time is fluid and possibilities are endless. Start with what you know, experiences, feelings, and your medical training, and layer in the wisdom of your ancestry." Amelia hesitated, vivid images of skeptical peers flooding her mind. The arduous stares of patients and colleagues loomed like storm clouds, threatening to overshadow the sun of her burgeoning confidence. Would the community ever accept this new amalgamation of her identity? But beneath those dire visions lay a glimmer of empowerment. She had always been drawn to the stories of her ancestors, their resilience and relationship with nature. What if she could bring that sacred connection into the clinical space, a melding that redefined healing? What if she could encourage her patients to confront their pain with the same grace her ancestors had shown in their struggles? "I can't approach this half-heartedly," she murmured, determination igniting her core. "It has to be whole. I have to be whole." Eleonora nodded in support, filling the silence between them with acknowledgement of the truth that had settled within Amelia. Transformation demands integrity. Your authenticity will be the light that guides others on their own paths. With Eleonora's guidance, Amelia began envisioning a plan. She would gradually incorporate exercises from her lineage into her patient care, mindfulness practices, storytelling, even herbal workshops, sharing the healing properties of local plants. It would be a process, an education not just for the patients but for her colleagues too. Yet as visions of this healing space washed over her, a flicker of doubt remained. What would happen to her role in the hospital? How would she convince the very people who had loomed large in her mind? Could she leap into this unknown realm and still remain a nurse, a healer, a bridge between worlds? Amelia inhaled deeply, the taste of rain mingling with the crisp air signaling change. One step into this journey meant unveiling layers of herself that had long remained hidden. Could she rise against the current of established norms? The patrons of clinical expectations embodied all her fears, yet they might also be the catalyst for her empowerment. As she stood within the warm embrace of Eleonora, a slow smile crept upon her lips, fending off doubt with resolve. She was ready to begin her journey, not just through her upbringing, but also into her future. The silence following the storm was invigorating, a reminder that clarity often follows chaos. And amid this clarity, Amelia heard a knock, a soft, unexpected sound echoing in the quiet. Who could it be at this hour? The storm had passed, but her heart raced with the renewed tension of the unknown. Would this visitor help her solidify her new path, or would it unearth fresh questions she wasn't prepared to confront? Amelia's heart thumped against her chest as she exchanged glances with Eleonora, a mix of anticipation and trepidation unfurling within her. That soft knock seemed to reverberate through the walls of her carefully constructed resolve, pulling at threads she was barely starting to weave together. "Who is it?" Eleonora prodded, her calm demeanor adding weight to the tension filling the air. Taking a deep breath, Amelia moved toward the door, her hands trembling slightly. She hadn't anticipated confrontation so soon, especially when she was still grappling with the enormity of her commitment. The fear that had haunted her moments ago surged again, whispering persuasive doubts in her mind. Was this visit a sign, a reinforcement of her determination, or an invitation to retreat? Pushing the door open, she was met with a shadowy figure framed against the dim hallway light. A woman stood there, wrapped in a dark shawl, her face obscured, yet radiating an unmistakable strength that seemed to reach out and touch Amelia's core. "Amelia," the woman spoke softly, yet her voice cut through the atmosphere like a dagger, precise and consuming. "I was sent by your ancestors." Amelia felt the room shift, the air thickening with history and urgency. Instinctively she stepped back, allowing the woman to enter. How do you know me?" With a subtle smile, the stranger removed the shawl from her head, revealing striking features that seemed to dance with the wisdom of age and experience. "In their whispers, they have guided me to you. I am Kaylee. Your great-grandmother has opened the door for you to reconnect with our traditions." As the implications of those words settled over her, Amelia felt every cell in her body stir with both exhilaration and confusion. "I want to do this. I want to honor my lineage," she managed, though the enormity of her feelings made her voice tremble. "But I'm afraid of losing my place in the world I know, afraid of what that means for my practice and my colleagues." Kaylee stepped forward, her presence comforting yet commanding. Doubt can be a heavy burden, but it also holds a key to unveiling parts of ourselves long silenced. You must confront your fears directly. What if, instead of losing everything, you gain more than you can imagine? The rawness of Kaylee's words penetrated Amelia's defenses, unraveling the tight fear cocooned around her confidence. "How do I confront those who will resist me?" she queried, her voice steadying as determination filled the spaces left by uncertainty. Kaylee's gaze intensified, pierced by a sincerity that seemed to draw Amelia into a deeper understanding of herself. "You begin by claiming your power. Your heritage is not a mere accessory, it is a part of you, a right and a strength. But to empower others, you must first empower yourself. The true healing resides within the stories, within the connections between spirit and practice." Amelia pondered these words, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What would her colleagues see when she shared this side of herself? Would they view her as a charlatan or as a pioneer? "Wait!" she suddenly interjected, a thought striking her with clarity. "What if I facilitate a workshop, explain how this integration can enhance our healing practices, showing that traditional and modern medicine are not in opposition but can coexist?" Kaylee beamed, nodding slowly as if recognizing the burgeoning vision that was solidifying in Amelia's mind. "Embrace this initiative fully, but do not disguise your roots. When you share your journey, you may also inspire others to find their own authenticity. Remember, it is never easy to challenge the status quo, but the rewards might just redefine everything." Amelia felt recognition flicker in her heart, the desire to be understood, the need to rise above fear, and the exhilarating sense of possibility. Becoming the connection between old and new wasn't just a professional stride, it was a personal evolution. As Kaylee's words sank in, a rush of motivation surged through Amelia. But just as the dam of her uncertainty began to crack wide open, she realized there was much work ahead. "Tomorrow," she concluded, firming her resolve, "I will propose the workshop." "Good," Kaylee replied, her expression serious. "But remember, confronting your truth leaves you vulnerable. Be prepared for reactions that may challenge your intentions." The gravity of Kaylee's warning sent a shiver down Amelia's spine, fueling her determination even further. She knew this journey would require protection of her newfound identity, the strength to withstand any backlash from her peers. As they prepared to part ways, Amelia felt a realization wash over her. This was just the beginning. Stepping into the future meant not only breaking barriers, but also confronting the chaos within. She grasped the handle of the door, aware the world outside remained unchanged, yet felt impossibly distant. The moment a knock at her door had catalyzed something profound, she couldn't ignore the truth that awaited her. What would her colleagues think when she revealed part of the story she had kept so deeply buried? Unforgettable truths were yet to unfold. Amelia awoke early the next morning, the weight of anticipation settling heavily across her chest. The sun barely peeked through the curtains, casting gentle illumination that danced across her bedroom walls, but the warmth could not thaw the chill of uncertainty deep within her. Rising from her bed, Amelia felt every fiber of her being vibrating with possibility. Today was the day she would confront her colleagues and propose the workshop that could change everything. Her heart raced not just from excitement, but also from the specters of doubt that loomed closely, whispering accusations of foolishness. Would they dismiss her? Would they accuse her of abandoning her medical practice for some whimsical notion rooted in the past? As she prepared herself, Amelia focused on her reflection in the mirror. She needed to present not only the expert healer she had always been, but also the woman embracing her heritage. She chose her clothes carefully, selecting an outfit that blended modern professionalism with subtle traditional flair, a nod to the bonds of her ancestry that now felt more vibrant than ever. With each passing hour, her resolve strengthened. She gathered her notes, an amalgamation of concepts that bridged both modern and ancestral healing practices and showcased a holistic approach. It was not merely about sharing new techniques, but also inviting her colleagues to discover dimensions of themselves often neglected in their careers. At the clinic, the atmosphere buzzed with usual banter, the hum of medical equipment, and the aroma of brewing coffee competing for attention. Yet, as she entered the shared office space, the familiarity squeezed at her nerves. Her colleagues greeted her with smiles, yet beneath the surface lay tension, an unspoken awareness of the significance of her intentions. "Amelia," called out Dr. Schreiber, his voice slicing through her thoughts. "What's on your mind today? You look different." It was both an inquiry and a challenge. "I have an idea I want to share with all of you." She felt her throat tighten but pressed on. "I would like to propose a workshop." Silence enveloped the room, the response delayed by curiosity mixed with skepticism. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "I want to integrate traditional healing practices into our modern approaches, creating a cohesive framework that honors both worlds." "Traditional healing?" Dr. Liu interjected, his brows furrowing as if wrangling with an unaffordable thought. "You mean, like herbal remedies and rituals? Isn't that a step back for us?" Amelia's heart raced as every doubt resurfaced at once, but she pressed forward. "No, it's not a step back, it's a step forward. Healing has always been multidimensional, and we could broaden our impact by embracing what history has taught us." Tension was palpable in the room. Amelia studied the faces of her colleagues, some intrigued, others skeptical. But amid the uncertainty, she glimpsed a flicker of recognition. Some were already intrigued, even as they masked it behind clinical doubt. "I've been reading about the powerful impacts of traditional practices on modern treatment outcomes," she continued, her voice gaining confidence. "It would not only enhance our practice, but also expand our understanding as healers." She watched as a murmur rippled through the group. Hesitational eyes flitted between each other, a silent conversation brewing. Unbeknownst to her, Amelia was not merely presenting an idea. She was breaking down the walls around her own identity. Then Jennifer, her closest colleague, raised her hand. "I think it could work if we approach it scientifically. We need to incorporate studies, make it credible." The supporting words from Jennifer unleashed a wave of energy in the room. Tension morphed into engagement. Dr. Schreiber nodded. "What guidance do you have from your heritage, Amelia? How do we honor and present that respectfully?" As they began to discuss details, new ideas sprouted in the air, lifting Amelia's spirit. It was becoming a collaborative effort, one where she stood not alone in her endeavor, but at the forefront of a movement that could validate her lineage alongside her professional identity. Suddenly, she felt a force greater than herself pushing through the doubts, drowning them in an outpouring of potential. But as the discussions grew, fleeting shadows of disbelief lingered. Would her colleagues embrace this newfound approach wholeheartedly, or would pockets of resistance brew beneath the surface? The thought chilled her. The seeds of her fear had not yet vanished. They simply lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. Amelia focused ahead, aware now that this journey was far from just about integrating traditions. This was about confronting the critical reaction she still feared most. As she stepped away from the energized discussion, a sensation of both exhilaration and a lingering sense of foreboding washed over her. She was opening a door, one she couldn't close again. How would she deal with the backlash when those resistant voices finally found their strength? With her vision clear, the uncertainty of what was yet to come began to take form. The journey she initiated was more than personal. It was about challenging the very fabric of her identity as a healer. And the moment of reckoning was drawing closer. What would she confront next? Would she find her colleagues poised behind her or standing against her? As the days unfolded after Amelia's proposal, the initial excitement in the air began to split into currents of doubt and curiosity. Discussions spread like wildfire among her colleagues, creating an atmosphere suffused with mixed emotions. Amelia could sense the divide. A quiet unease lapped at the edges of the clinic, and she couldn't shake the creeping feeling of isolation that nudged at her heart. Each morning, the sunrise brought a new wave of determination, yet with it came a deeper realization of the challenges she faced. The more she explored her vision, integrating traditional healing practices with modern techniques, the more she had to confront her colleagues' skepticism. Rejecting the notion that her proposal was a mere relic of the past, Amelia instead explored the profound relevance it could hold for contemporary healing. But would her conviction be enough to sway the minds and hearts of those whose beliefs had been formed through years of rigid medical training? After her discussion, she found herself retreating to her office more frequently, seeking solace in the quietude of her space. Yet the weight of uncertainty refused to lift. What if she was merely an outsider in her own environment, championing ideas that belonged to a world her colleagues couldn't accept? Determined to fortify her stance, Amelia began to research extensively. She combed through studies linking traditional methods to improved health outcomes, delving into case studies of successful integration in various practices. Each bit of knowledge fueled her resolve, transforming her anxiety into something sharper, more like a blade honed for battle. Tapping into the ancient wisdom she had long known, but rarely understood on a professional level, she created a presentation that illustrated her findings. As she prepared for the next meeting with her colleagues, each slide became not just data points, but pathways that retraced the steps of her lineage. This wasn't only about medicine, it was about identity, legacy, and healing. Could she turn their skepticism into intrigue? Could she expose a longing for discovery nestled within the skepticism? On the day of her presentation, the familiar hum of conversation in the clinic felt different. A portentous buzz that signaled anticipation and also conflict. The room filled with faces, some open, some closed, and Amelia stood at the forefront, grappling with the enormity of her task. She established her footing, consciously grounding herself in a blend of her professional demeanor and authentic voice. As she spoke, she noticed more than just attentive eyes. She witnessed the tightening of lips, furrowed brows, remnants of doubt embedded in the expressions of seasoned professionals. Yet amid this resistance, she also saw glimmers of interest, unspoken questions lurking behind skeptical facades. "Consider the narratives we inherit," she urged, her voice steadying with each phrase. "They are not mere anecdotes, they are accounts of resilience, strategies for holistic well-being. By combining our tools with these narratives, we elevate our practice to meet the complexities of human experience." As she wrapped up, she felt something shift in the room. It was subtle, a softening in rigid postures, a flicker of curiosity exchanged between peers. But just as victory felt within reach, Dr. Liu stood up, arms crossed, voice sharp. "You propose an integration of two worlds, yet isn't it naive to think that simply mashing them together will yield results? What proof do we have that this integration will not jeopardize the standards and effectiveness we've worked so hard to uphold?" The bracing question pierced through her moment of triumph. While his skepticism felt like a personal attack, a deeper concern flickered in his words. She faced him, her heart pounding as adrenaline surged. This was the confrontation she had anticipated. What would be her response? Would she navigate this attack with poise or recoil under pressure? In the charged silence that followed, Amelia felt the weight of countless decisions resting on her shoulders. She realized defending her concept wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about understanding the fears and boundaries her colleagues held. "The journey toward integration may require us to step beyond convention," she replied, allowing her vulnerability to illuminate her stance. "We need not abandon our standards. Rather, we can reinvent them. Perhaps what we hold as rigid in our practice may benefit from evolution." Her words hung in the air, a challenge ricocheting off the walls of the room. Would her colleagues rise to meet this challenge, or would they retreat into their comfort zone, dismissing the possibility of growth? The clock ticked away the moments of silence, and for the first time, Amelia felt not just the fear of rejection, but the fluttering hope of potential alliance. What would the next moments reveal about her colleagues and about herself? The door she had opened was broader than she had imagined, and it led into the unknown, ripe with possibilities and impending trials. The true test of her vision was only beginning. How would she navigate this fraught landscape of skepticism, and would it ultimately fortify her identity as a healer? The atmosphere in the clinic buzzed with muted conversations and a palpable tension that lingered like a storm cloud. Amelia's breath came in measured intervals as she processed Dr. Liu's challenge. His skepticism was not just an obstacle, it was a reflection of deeply ingrained fears about change. A fear she had felt within herself countless times, Rather than succumbing to the weight of his inquiry, a determination ignited within her. This moment could define her future as both a healer and a leader. She decided to respond not with defensiveness but with strategy. Closing her eyes briefly, she envisioned a bridge, one that would connect modern medical practices with ancient healing techniques. The meeting room transformed in her mind into a vast landscape where both worlds could coexist rather than clash. This visual became her anchor. She could build a collaborative dialogue instead of a division. "Let's imagine a scenario," Amelia began, lifting her voice with newfound conviction. "What if we were to implement a pilot program allowing patients the choice to integrate traditional practices alongside their conventional treatments? Wouldn't gathering data from this real-world experiment provide us tangible evidence to discuss?" Dr. Liu relaxed ever so slightly, appearing to mull over her suggestion. It was a tentative opening that could lead to deeper discussion. The prospect of actionable evidence resonated with several colleagues, others shifting in their seats, some even asking subtle questions about the methodology. Amelia realized this was her moment. She needed to seize it. "Imagine the insights we could gain," she continued, weaving a narrative around her vision. "Patients could receive the best of both worlds, and we would become pioneers in a new paradigm of healing. Is it not our duty as practitioners to explore every option available to improve our patients' well-being?" Amelia forced herself to maintain eye contact with Dr. Liu, mirroring the quiet strength that radiated from her. The challenge was not solely to convince him, it was to inspire a collective ethos among her colleagues to embrace innovation rooted in tradition. After a prolonged silence, Dr. Liu's brow furrowed deeper, his gaze flickering toward the other doctors in the room. "It's an intriguing proposal, but what's the assurance that this won't backfire? Safety concerns? Potential backlash from our governing bodies?" His questions had a bite, but this time she felt the pulse of her courage. Every new venture faces risks. The medical field thrives on risk management. Why not manage the risks that come with a combination of methodologies? We can't afford to ignore traditions. They represent the breadth of human experience and understanding. Amelia's heart raced as she sensed the tide beginning to turn. One by one, her colleagues began to voice their thoughts, tentative yet exploratory. Questions bubbled forth, not in the spirit of outright rejection, but framed in curiosity. Discussions spread like tendrils of ivy, climbing the walls of skepticism wrapped tightly around the room. Yet, as the conversation continued, Amelia caught glimpses of rivalry hidden behind supportive gestures. Dr. Liu's sharp questioning had sparked interest, but it didn't quell the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She realized she was contending not just with doubt about her ideas, but with her own insecurities and fears of inadequacy. By the end of the session, a consensus emerged, a preliminary agreement to gather data for a pilot program, with Amelia leading the initiative. Relief washed over her, but it mingled with a sense of urgency. The journey ahead was still carved from uncertainty. This first victory felt like a fragile seedling, in need of nurturing to survive. As she stepped out of the meeting room, she was met with a mix of applause and pointed looks from her colleagues. Some clapped for her courage, while others conveyed skepticism wrapped in polite smiles. In that moment, a realization struck her. She was now even more deeply embroiled in the dichotomy of acceptance and resistance. Reflecting on her position, a new question surfaced. How could she continue to foster this newfound momentum while safeguarding her vision? The stakes had been raised. This was her chance to anchor herself firmly between tradition and modernity, yet the path ahead looked perilous. Amelia paused at the door, catching her breath. What natural instincts had awakened within her during this process? As she ventured into her next checkpoint in this journey, the growing echoes of doubt mingled with budding confidence. What revelations awaited her in the actions she would take next, and how would they redraw the lines she thought she understood? With her heart pounding, Amelia contemplated the true scale of her undertaking, stepping not just into the future of medicine, but into the very depths of her identity. What awaited her as she pressed forward? How would this pivotal moment alter her perspective of healing and her place within this fascinating, tumultuous world? Amelia navigated the bustling corridors of the clinic, her heart still racing from the meeting's intensity. While colleagues offered words of encouragement, she felt herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Pride intertwined with anxiety, excitement shadowed by the fear of failure. Each step resonated with the weight of her new responsibility. Could she truly lead a project that traversed both the old and the new? She found herself in the staff lounge, a space usually filled with laughter and camaraderie. Today, it felt stifling. The air hung thick with uncertainty, reflecting her inner turmoil. As she rubbed her temples, she recalled the faces of her colleagues during the meeting, the uncertain glances, the underlying currents of rivalry. They were not simply supporting her, they were judging, evaluating her ambition against the yardstick of their own comfort. Amelia filled her cup with coffee, the rich aroma grounding her momentarily. She needed a strategy beyond the meeting, one that could keep the momentum alive while addressing the intrinsic hesitancies of her peers. The initial agreement was merely the first layer. Deep down, she questioned if she possessed the resilience to navigate future challenges, both systemically and personally. Emerging from the lounge, she decided to seek out Samuel, a senior nurse whose respect she valued. His experience and insight could be instrumental in shaping her initiative. Finding him in the supply room, she appreciated the way his meticulous nature complemented her chaotic mental state. "Amelia," he acknowledged with a smile, noticing her urgency. "What's on your mind?" "I need your advice on the pilot program," she confessed, pouring out her ideas, the vision spilling from her like an unrestrained river. She elaborated on the integration of traditional practices, how they could benefit patient care by marrying different techniques. Samuel nodded, but didn't leap to support her ideas immediately. "You know," he began thoughtfully, "people resist what they don't understand. You need to prepare them for this idea, not just with data, but with compassion. They need to see the humanity in it, not just the science." A flash of insight struck Amelia. Yes, she had the data-driven approach, but perhaps she had neglected an emotional undercurrent that tethered her colleagues to their established routines. Courage alone couldn't change perceptions. She needed empathy to stitch together the fabric of their collective consciousness. "Can you help me craft a presentation that highlights patient stories?" she asked, the realization providing clarity. "Absolutely," he said, his smile broadening. "But let's also incorporate some evidence-based practices from our field to show that combining these methods is not just feasible but beneficial." As they planned the presentation, Amelia felt her confidence growing. The exchange sparked a fire within her. The act of collaboration revealed not only her capacity to lead, but illuminated a nascent ability to listen, to understand, to synthesize disparate voices into a harmonious narrative. As days passed, she meticulously curated patient stories, testimonials that spoke of hope and healing through both modern and traditional methodologies. With each story, Amelia crafted connections, portraying empathy that transcended the sterile language of medical charts. But beneath that burgeoning confidence lay a flicker of doubt. Would this approach resonate with her colleagues, or would it enter the realm of the too sentimental, the too idealistic? The doubts reared their heads as she began rehearsing for the upcoming presentation, practicing in front of her mirror. Each repetition felt like a step towards a precipice, toes hanging over the edge. Would she soar or crash? On presentation day, Amelia steeled herself, reminding her heart of the importance of what she was about to share. The room was quieter than it had been at their last meeting, the tension palpable, her colleagues poised for a performance that could either cement her position or unravel her efforts. As she started, a voice echoed behind her, voice filled with challenges, revealing rivalries beneath the surface. "But how can we trust that this isn't just another fad? Are we prepared to risk our reputation on something unproven?" In the face of this confrontation, Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her. The time had come to face not only the doubts of others, but the doubts within her own heart. How could she address those legitimate concerns without losing the very essence of her vision? Amelia's breath caught as the voice resonated through the room, stark and challenging. The question hung in the air, an ominous cloud threatening to eclipse her hard-fought momentum. She could feel the gazes of her colleagues pinning her down, scrutinizing every shift in her expression. Doubt swirled like a tempest in her mind, but she refused to let it drown her. Drawing on the stories she had curated, she remembered the raw emotions and challenges her patients had faced. Each narrative had a heartbeat, a splinter of hope. It was time to let that pulse guide her words. I understand your concerns, she began, her voice steady yet vulnerable. Every innovation comes with uncertainty, but consider this. Every successful treatment we implement today started as an unproven concept. Joshua, the challenger's voice, shifted his weight, eyebrows knitting together in skepticism. But patients are not just statistics, Amelia. You're talking about changing lives here, not just processes. What if we fail? Isn't that what we do every single day? She countered, momentarily surprised by her courage. Every time we take a risk, we balance the potential for failure against the opportunities for healing. Think of Emily, whose life turned around when we integrated holistic approaches into her chemotherapy. Her story isn't just one of survival, it's one of resilience brought about by trying something new amidst traditional methods. As she spoke, she made deliberate eye contact with her colleagues, inviting them into her narrative. With each patient's story, she could see some barriers begin to crack. Faces that bore the weight of skepticism softened in contemplation. Emotional testimonies resonate because they remind us why we chose this profession, Samuel added, backing her with a subtle nod of encouragement. Amelia's approach isn't a departure from our ethics, it's a reunion with our humanity. A murmur swept through the room, an undercurrent that seemed to connect them. But Amelia pressed on, not allowing the swell of support to overshadow the challenge still looming. We can implement metrics to evaluate outcomes, she insisted. This can't just be driven by passion, it must also resonate with evidence. My vision merges both elements. But what if this fails to align with our established protocols? A younger physician, Angela, interjected, arms crossed defensively. Her apprehension radiated in the air like a tangible resource, charged with concern for their reputation and patient safety. Amelia felt the familiar prickle of anxiety. It threatened to destabilize her poise, but she fought against it. In our journey as caregivers, the essence of evolution lies in our willingness to pivot. Innovation doesn't negate protocol, it enhances it. I'm not asking us to throw out the foundations we've built. Rather, I'm proposing that we expand the structure. With each rebuttal, tension receded slightly, the barriers beginning to dissolve under the force of Amelia's conviction. She realized she wasn't merely fighting for acceptance. She was advocating for a vision that could redefine the way they approached care. That insight forged a deeper resolve within her. Yet, as the moment of consensus began to unfold, she sensed an unaddressed hesitation beneath the surface. The inner workings of rivalries, veiled motivations pulsed quietly. Would her proposition unify them, or draw an even clearer line in the sand between old practices and new ones? It seemed some were still reluctant to envision the change. As Amelia concluded her presentation, she felt lighter, invigorated yet apprehensive. A part of her dared to believe in eventual acceptance, while another part questioned the possible emergence of deeper schisms. She had ignited dialogue. Now would it spark collaboration or division? Turning to face her colleagues one last time, she asked, "How do we want to move forward?" Before anyone could respond, the door swung open, and Dr. Richards, the clinic's director, entered with an authoritative presence. The room fell silent as everyone turned to regard him. An inscrutable expression danced across his face, hinting at the weight of a decision impending. "I've been listening, and I believe it's time we discuss the implications of your ideas, Amelia." With that, the atmosphere shifted once more, the stakes higher than they had been mere moments ago. Amelia felt her heart pound, a renewed tension thrumming in the air. What would Dr. Richards say, and how would it affect her vision? The pivotal moment loomed ahead, ready to either validate her struggle or plunge her back into uncertainty. Dr. Richards surveyed the room, his expression a mixture of intrigue and scrutiny. The charged atmosphere thickened as everyone awaited his verdict. Amelia's heart raced, every possible outcome flashing through her mind. Would he support her groundbreaking idea or shut it down before it had a chance to take flight? "Amelia," he began, his voice firm yet contemplative. "You've opened a very important conversation today. Integrating traditional healing practices with modern medicine is not just innovative, it's vital in recognizing the holistic needs of our patients. However, the success of this initiative hinges on how we approach it moving forward." Amelia leaned in, an overwhelming swell of hope surging within her. I understand the concerns, but I truly believe this integration can be transformative, not just for our patients, but for us as practitioners. We have a chance to heal not only the body but also the spirit, embracing the entire journey of the healing process. I appreciate your passion, Dr. Richards replied, nodding thoughtfully. But passion alone won't carry this initiative. We must ensure that our standards remain high, our methods scientifically supported, and our patient safety remains paramount. He paused, eyeing a few skeptical faces in the room, who seemed to shift uncomfortably in their seats. I propose we create a task force dedicated to exploring this integration further, he continued, deciding on a course. Amelia, I'd like you to lead it. Assess the existing body of evidence, gather input from both your colleagues and the community, and develop a structured approach. We will establish checkpoints to monitor patient outcomes and ensure that the blending of practices is both safe and effective. Let's mitigate the risks while exploring this transformative path. The room erupted into whispers as Dr. Richards' words sank in. The prospect of a task force felt like a monumental victory. It not only corroborated Amelia's efforts, but also validated her journey of self-discovery. She was being entrusted to pioneer a new concept in healing, a potent intertwining of heritage and modern medicine. Thank you. I will absolutely take this on, and I'll reach out to those interested in joining the task force, Amelia responded, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle comfortably upon her shoulders. The initial doubts that had threatened to cloud her vision began to dissolve like morning mist, replaced by an exhilarating sense of purpose. While others deliberated further about logistical aspects, Amelia felt more empowered than ever. The journey she had set in motion was now becoming a collective endeavor. A bridge between worlds that not only acknowledged, but honored the duality of her identity as a nurse and healer. Days turned into weeks, and as the task force took shape, Amelia forged connections with community members, patients, and fellow practitioners. Each meeting brought new insights and layers of support, enhancing her belief that this was a path worth pursuing. She organized workshops and discussions, empowering colleagues with narratives woven from her heritage, encouraging them to let go of skepticism and embrace curiosity. As Amelia continued to embrace her identity, she found that she had not only integrated her ancestral wisdom into her practice, but she had also transformed her colleagues' perceptions of what healing could embody. The task force swiftly garnered attention, with reports of successes emerging from the integration of practices. Patients began responding positively, citing the effectiveness of combining modern methodologies with traditional care. As feedback rolled in, her peers started to shift from cautious acceptance to enthusiastic advocacy. They began seeing the potential to enrich not just individual care, but the very fabric of their professional community. In a moment of validation, Amelia stood on the stage of the clinic's annual meeting, now filled with colleagues applauding her efforts, recognition shimmering in their eyes. By embracing our unique paths, we can redefine what it means to heal, she proclaimed, her voice resonating with strength. It's not just about science or tradition, it's about the convergence of both. We step bravely into the future, unified in our commitment to our patients' complete well-being. The standing ovation that followed was not just for the work she had done, but also for the journey of self-discovery she had undertaken, a journey that set her free from the constraints of doubt and let her blossom into the healer she was always meant to be. As the clinic thrived under this new model, Amelia felt the whispers that once haunted her dissolve into a gentle breeze, replaced by voices of encouragement and collaboration. With every patient treated holistically, every story shared, she further solidified her position, not merely as a nurse, but as a transformative healer. Amelia had proven that she could indeed bridge the divide, not just for herself, but for a community eager for healing that embraced the mind, body, and spirit. She stood proudly at the intersection of two worlds, embodying the infinite possibility that exists when one dares to reclaim their narrative. Now it was time for the next chapter, one that would see her legacy transcend into the lives of countless others, an acknowledgement of her roots and a vision for the future, united and stronger than ever before. If you resonate with stories of personal transformation, you need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive emotional narratives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every action helps spread these powerful stories further. Comment your thoughts and theories about how Amelia's journey might inspire others to embrace their own paths. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion and witness the power of self-discovery. Don't wait even one more second. Support the journey of overcoming and healing through your engagement.